Such concealment probably did not entail good intentions. Hanju had already detected his information. Cave Master Clear Wind, early stage Great Tao Primordial Chaos Realm, Khanate Life Form, disciple of the Tao Ancestor, Immeasurable Emperor. Cave Master Clear Wind? What a strange name! Cave Master Clear Wind smiled and replied, I'm only a Taoist wandering in the chaos. This time, I'm here to see how the old place is developing. You must be the divine might heavenly sage of the heavenly Tao. Impressive. The heavenly Tao is developing very well in your hands. It can be considered an unprecedented golden age. Hanju asked, you already saw it. What's next? A great Tao sage was extremely dangerous to the heavenly Tao. Hanju had to be wary. He would kill him instantly if this fellow dared to develop hatred towards him. Of course, you're really wary. Perhaps this is the reason why the heavenly Tao can develop until now. Cave Master Clearwind sighed. He had the bearing of an expert. Although he kept calling him a fellow Taoist, Hanju felt that this old fellow's tone like he was talking to a junior. In terms of age, Hanju was a junior. But not in terms of cultivation. Cultivation was used to determine seniority in the chaos. Cave Master Clearwind suddenly asked, what do you think of the Tao Ancestor? Hanju replied, the Tao Ancestor has endless merit towards the heavenly Tao. He is the ancestor of the heavenly Tao cultivators. I naturally respect him. Cave Master Clearwind has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points, Nin star. Hanju narrowed his eyes. What did he mean? Aren't you the disciple of the Tao Ancestor? You want to betray your master? Hanju almost attacked him when he saw the hatred notification. Fortunately, it was a one-star hatred. Otherwise, the ashes of Cave Master Clearwind would have been scattered on the chaotic heavenly road. Looks like the Tao Ancestor's wish has been fulfilled. Cave Master Clearwind sighed and left. Watching him leave, Hanju still endured it. One-star hatred points showed that the other party was only unhappy. There was no need to curse or kill. Hanju didn't want to develop a bloodthirsty personality. Then why was he staring at the chaotic heavenly road instead of the heavenly Tao? It looked like he was checking something. Most importantly, this fellow did not even dare to leave behind his Tao title. Was he afraid of being cursed? Hanju had no choice but to use the derivation function. I want to know why Cave Master Clearwind came to the heavenly Tao? 160 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Hanju entered the illusion. He opened his eyes and appeared in a dark world. The barren land was continuous in all directions. He could only see very short weeds and various flames floating in the air. He couldn't see any living beings. His gaze landed on a stone tablet. This stone tablet was 1,000 feet tall. Its surface was covered in cracks and was very inconspicuous in the vast world. Hanju noticed a few words on the stone tablet, but he couldn't see them clearly. Strange. There were still things that the Great Tao sages could not see clearly. There must be a special restriction on the stone tablet. At this moment, figures appeared in front of the stone tablet. There were a total of 9 figures. They were all Taoists, and one of them was none other than Cave Master Clearwind. The leader was a tall Taoist with a jade staff at his waist that reflected a faint light. The tall Taoist asked, why did you gather us? A vast voice came from the stone tablet, the heavenly Tao has changed. Fate is unfathomable. I need you to investigate why it has changed. The 9 Taoists looked at each other. One of the Taoists couldn't help but say, it's just an investigation. Is there a need to ask all of us to go? The other Taoists nodded. The heavenly Tao was far away. They still had to cultivate. Go! It's best to think of a way to infiltrate the heavenly Tao. This matter might involve the great Tao immeasurable calamity. That mysterious and unknown primordial fiend celestial might be born in the heavenly Tao in the future. If that's the case, you can keep an eye on it immediately. The vast voice weakened as it spoke. The tall Taoist frowned. Their expressions changed when the other Taoists heard about the great Tao immeasurable calamity. The illusion shattered. Hanju opened his eyes. Indeed, they had ill intentions. He asked in his mind, have these 9 great Tao sages already infiltrated the heavenly Tao? The great Tao sages had many methods and did not need him to infiltrate. 200 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. Hanju asked, who was the voice in the stone tablet just now? 500 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Beginning deity, late stage great Tao supreme realm, the first great Tao deity in the chaos. He once fought with the Tao ancestor and was severely injured. He was sealed in the ancient desolate. Even though he was severely injured, he was still at the late stage great Tao supreme realm. The Tao ancestor was very powerful. Hanju suddenly wondered if the system could derive the Tao ancestor. I want to know where the Tao ancestor is. The other party's karma is too scattered and cannot be accurately deduced. What did this mean? Could it be that the Tao ancestor had transformed into all things, and all things were covered in chaos? Hanju frowned. He had always been afraid of the Tao ancestor. The Tao ancestor always seemed to be able to escape the system's pursuit. Most importantly, why did the Tao ancestor disappear? Who was he hiding from? He couldn't be hiding from Hanju, the primordial fiend celestial, right? Hanju would have died thousands of times if the Tao ancestor was still around and wanted to kill the primordial fiend celestial. Hanju always thought that the Tao ancestor had chosen him as a variable and would definitely see that he was extraordinary. It was very likely because of the system. The original Hanju was nothing special. Transmigrator? When Hanju observed the myriad worlds in the universe, he often saw transmigrators whose souls traveled to other worlds. The so-called transmigrator was just a soul that luckily escaped the order of reincarnation and was swept into an unknown world. Speaking of which, many mighty figures also like to transmigrate. Hanju couldn't figure it out and stopped thinking about it. Continue cultivating. He had plenty of ways to eliminate them even if the 9 great Tao sages infiltrated the heavenly Tao. If there was no other way, he could only let the dark forbidden lord appear. Outside the Suisun RD heaven. In the universal hall. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu, Sect Master Tianju, Chou Shilai, Fang Liang, and Zhang Guxing gathered here. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu scanned the 4 sages and said, "Today, I summon the 4 of you because I have a mission for you." Sect Master Tianju replied, "Go ahead." Heavenly Venerate Xiandu said, "Recently, there have been rumors in the chaos that the primordial fiend celestial who is going to usher the great Tao immeasurable calamity will be born in the heavenly Tao. This is probably a conspiracy. The Buddhist sect, the heavenly Tao sect, the Divine Palace, and the Jia School are all sects where the geniuses of the heavenly Tao gather. I have also informed Li Xianao. Everyone, spread a statement. It's best to push this matter into the chaos. This saying is that the heavenly Tao will give birth to 10 geniuses who can resist the primordial fiend celestial. They are the primordial 10 sages chosen by the Tao ancestor." The 4 sages were stunned. Fang Liang's eyes widened. Really? His soul had transmigrated to the primordial era many times. Why had he never heard of the primordial 10 sages? The great Tao immeasurable calamity was a shadow that enveloped the entire chaos. We can't rely on fellow Taoist Han for everything. Other than strength, there are many other ways to resolve the calamity. The 4 sages were silent. Fang Liang cursed silently. I knew it. What primordial 10 sages? It only sounded nice. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu continued, I'll tell you the legend of the primordial 10 sages now. Remember it well. The 4 sages had strange expressions. You even made up a legend? Heavenly Venerate Xiandu did not seem to see their expressions and continued speaking. Less than 5,000 years later, the legend of the primordial 10 sages spread in the heavenly Tao and then from the chaotic heavenly road to the chaos. Legend had it that the primordial 10 sages were the 10 mighty figures, including the Tao ancestor. They had subdued the reincarnated Luo Ho of the primordial fiend celestial and disappeared without a trace. Before the great Tao immeasurable calamity, they would reincarnate and cultivate the great Tao again. They would be the saviors, killing the primordial fiend celestial. This legend excited countless geniuses. The geniuses all thought highly of themselves. Tracing their talent would create a fantasy. Could they be the reincarnation of a mighty figure? The heavenly Tao had already formed the momentum to find the primordial 10 sages, but it still required a long time to spread to every corner of the chaos. More than 10,000 years later, Hanju was still cultivating. Detected that you are 800,000 years old. You have the following choices. Yi, exit seclusion immediately. Raise the reputation of the primordial fiend celestial and stir up the great Tao immeasurable calamity. You can obtain a chance to upgrade the Tao field. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and stay away from trouble. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a supreme treasure. 800,000 years old. How old? Hanju ignored the system's trap and silently chose the second option. Congratulations on obtaining the ultimate supreme treasure Mystical Destiny Book. Mystical Destiny Book, Ultimate Supreme Treasure, a supreme treasure formed by seizing a supreme creation. It can tamper with the past and future of others and directly change everything. It is not restricted or spied on by any rules, but it cannot erase the existence of the Great Tao and its rules. Every time you use this treasure, your lifespan will be deducted at an equivalent price. This treasure will be unusable for a period of time. As the number of times it is used increases, its cooldown time will increase exponentially. Special hint, this treasure cannot be upgraded and cannot recognize a master. What the heck? Hanju blinked. Ultimate Supreme Treasure. Did he obtain a golden legendary treasure? Hanju carefully checked the treasure's introduction, and his breathing quickened. He could directly change everything. Too arrogant. Hanju took out the Mystical Destiny Book, and a white cover book appeared in his hand. It was smooth and cold. This thing is not easy to use. I don't know how much lifespan I have to use. Don't suck me dry. Hanju frowned. The system can help you use this treasure. This treasure is one of the strongest supreme treasures contained in the system. You have to be extremely cautious when using it. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief upon seeing this line of words. One of the strongest supreme treasures? One of? Changing everything directly was invincible in Hanju's opinion. Warning. You cannot withstand the immense creation brought by this change. You will immediately die. That's not right. How can I die if I'm already the strongest? So it was useless. It was even more useless than the Book of Misfortune. Hanju suddenly thought of how the beginning deity had sent the great Tao sages to the heavenly Tao to investigate the primordial fiend celestial. Can I use a fake identity so that all living beings will never think that I am a primordial fiend celestial? Hanju's heart beat faster. This was a good idea. After all, the primordial fiend celestial was the entire chaos public enemy. I want the living beings of the chaos to think that I'm absolutely harmless. Warning. You cannot withstand the immense creation brought by this change. You will immediately die. I want the chaotic deities to have a favorable impression of me. Warning. You cannot withstand the immense creation brought by this change. You will immediately die. Alright, alright. I want all the living beings in the chaos to believe that I'm the reincarnation of a chaotic fiend celestial. The chaotic fiend celestial was already the lowest threshold. The potential Hanju displayed was too terrifying. It was too ridiculous to say that his potential was lower than that of a chaotic fiend celestial. It didn't make sense. Ordinary living beings might not realize this blind spot, but Hanju felt that with the chaotic deity's existence, they would definitely notice this and continue to investigate. In the end, it would speed up the exposure of his primordial fiend celestial identity. Half of your lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Half? Hanju's eyes widened and he almost threw the book to the ground. It was indeed not a good thing. However, Hanju still didn't give up. His lifespan would be refreshed as long as he broke through. He had to protect the primordial fiend celestial's secrets first. Hanju gritted his teeth and chose to continue. The mystical destiny book emitted a dazzling light. Hanju felt a terrifying suction force pulling something out of him. It was his lifespan. Hanju came back to his senses after an unknown period of time. Unprecedented exhaustion surged into his heart. A hint of fear appeared in his eyes as he looked at the mystical destiny book again. This thing was too terrifying. Putting aside the price, just the ability was very addictive. Hanju checked the book's cooldown time. 10 million years? Hanju was stunned. He didn't know if he should be happy or disappointed. He was happy that he would not be addicted but disappointed that such a supreme treasure had a long cooldown time. The cooldown time would increase exponentially after each use. Wouldn't he have to wait for 100 million years or even longer after using it a second time? Hanju put away the mystical destiny book, and his sage sense swept through the heavenly Tao. All living beings did not change. Everything was as before. Was this a change? Hanju suddenly thought of something. Do the chaotic deities have a similar supreme treasure? Ultimate supreme treasure cannot be deduced. He thought of a voice he had heard a long time ago. Transcend the illusion. It would indeed be a lie if everything could be changed. What was a real existence that could not be altered? Hanju adjusted his state of mind. Using the mystical destiny book to kill enemies might not be as worth it as the book of misfortune. It was better to do it himself. If this treasure fell into the hands of other living beings and their cultivation levels stagnated, the user would probably die after using it 2 or 3 times. 9 Taoists meditating were on this island. Among them was Cave Master Clearwind, who had gone to the Heavenly Tao previously. Cave Master Clearwind opened his eyes and said, "Everyone, we should leave. There's no point in staying in the Heavenly Tao." The other Taoists opened their eyes. Yes! This chaotic fiend celestial defeated 2 great Tao divine spirits in a row and even killed 14 great Tao sages. He can be said to be the strongest chaotic fiend celestial. Then, let's go! We can open our own Tao field. There's no need to return to the ancient desolate. That's right. The beginning deity was frightened by the Tao ancestor and was too cautious. Aren't we his pawns? The pawns he used to test the heavenly Tao. Will the beginning deity be offended? What are you afraid of? The Tao ancestor is only missing, not dead. The beginning deity probably doesn't dare to escape the ancient desolate. The Taoists talked to each other and had the same opinion. They all wanted to leave. Hanju's achievements were too impressive. To be honest, they didn't dare to provoke him at all. This was also the reason why they didn't dare to infiltrate the heavenly Tao. The tall Taoist in the lead stared at Cave Master Clear Wind and asked, "Tell me what you think of that chaotic fiend celestial." Cave Master Clear Wind said, "This person is ruthless, but he doesn't like to kill. He has a strong hostility towards the chaos. I was chased away by him not long after I went there. In addition, he is filled with reverence for the Tao ancestor. This means that there is another possibility. The Tao ancestor is his backing. During this period of time, I've been recruiting heavenly Tao cultivators to understand the development of the heavenly Tao in the past million years. After discovering that the Tao ancestor had gone missing, the heavenly Tao began to collapse and was played by the dark forbidden lord until the divine might heavenly sage rose. This chaotic fiend celestial was probably sent by the Tao ancestor to protect the heavenly Tao. Once we infiltrate, we might not only offend the divine might heavenly sage but also the Tao ancestor." The tall Taoist's expression changed. After a long while, he said, "All right, then let us retreat. We of the Purple Firmament 9 Taoists are not the deity's lackeys. There's no need to die for them." The other sages were relieved. They immediately left. Hanju had been cultivating with all his might ever since he used the mystical destiny book, fighting to regain his lost lifespan. The lifespan deduction would be nothing as long as he broke through. Time flew. Another 100,000 years passed. Detected that you are 900,000 years old and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately. Raise the reputation of the primordial fiend celestial and stir up the great Tao immeasurable calamity. You can obtain a chance to upgrade the Tao field. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and stay away from trouble. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a supreme treasure. The first option was to upgrade the Tao field just like when he reached 800,000 years of age. Hanju had already used his lifespan to make all living beings think that he was a chaotic fiend celestial. How could he go out and spread the name of the primordial fiend celestial? He silently chose the second option. Could there be another impressive supreme treasure this time? Congratulations on obtaining the chaotic supreme treasure World Visualization Heart Bracelet. World Visualization Heart Bracelet, Chaotic Supreme Treasure. When the Kiliacosm world appeared in the chaos, it was born as a supreme treasure. It is a Providence supreme treasure formed by the gathering of the power of the world. It can resist great Tao attacks. Another defensive supreme treasure? Hanju was not surprised or disappointed. He immediately took out the World Visualization Heart Bracelet and started refining it. There were a total of 18 beads on the World Visualization Heart Bracelet. Their colors were all different and they were tightly connected into a circle. 80 years later, the refinement was successful. The 18 beads dispersed and flew quickly. They surrounded Hanju, sometimes connecting into a circle and sometimes scattering into other patterns as if symbolizing the evolution of the world. Hanju took out the Creation Spirit Stone and chose a ball of Fiend Celestial Chi to fuse with. Then, he came to the second Tao field and released the weak water Fiend Celestial created by the Creation Spirit Stone 100,000 years ago to let Muroji fetch it. Tao Comprehension Sword looked at him and asked curiously, "Why can you constantly create chaotic Fiend Celestials?" Hanju glanced at her and didn't say anything. Liao said, "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask." Hanju said, "That's right. Knowing too much is not good for you. Sometimes, even if you don't want to say it, those transcendent existences can capture the memories in your mind. You don't want to be forced to betray me in the future, right?" Tao Comprehension Sword hurriedly shook her head. Hanju smiled and returned to the main Tao field. Tao Comprehension Sword clicked her tongue in wonder. Master has another supreme treasure on him. I wonder where he obtained it. Doesn't he stay inside all the time? The world visualization heart bracelet was clearly extraordinary. Liao said calmly, "It's just that you think he doesn't want to go out. An existence like him doesn't have to do it personally. He can directly enter the chaos and have many methods to find Dharma treasures." Dao Comprehension Sword felt that it made sense. Hanju suddenly thought of something as he sat on the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. It was useless to leave his previous Dharma treasures in the system space. It was better to give them to his disciples. Yes, he would give it to them in the future. Hanju closed his eyes and continued cultivating. He began to look forward to the reward. Year after year passed. 70,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Hanju opened his eyes. His sage sense swept through the 33rd heaven and he sensed no aura of a powerful enemy. He followed them to the Universal Hall. As usual, after Hanju arrived, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du sent a voice transmission to the other Heavenly Dao sages. South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Sect Master Tianju, Emperor Shao, Heavenly Venerate Wufa, Chou Shilai, Fang Liang, Huang Zuntian, Jin Shen, Pan Xin, Su Du Dao, Su Qi, Li Taigu, Primordial Chaos Buddha, Zhang Guxing, and Long Hao arrived one after another. First, the Heavenly Dao has another sage position. What do you think? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du asked. Hanju opened the emails. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock was attacked by your enemy, the cursed fiend Celestial. Your son Han Tuo has grasped a chaotic divine armament. His providence has increased greatly. Your grand disciple Chu Shuren has stepped into the chaotic river of destiny. His providence has increased greatly. Your descendant Han Yu was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Huang Zuntian transmigrated and was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. He was severely injured. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your enemy, the First Life Black Sovereign, has cultivated a karma mystical power. Hanju glanced at Huang Zuntian. This fellow didn't look to have been severely injured. Instead, Pan Xin looked distracted. Looking down, could it be that the reason why the First Life Black Sovereign learned the karma mystical power was to avoid the curse? Clearly, there was more or less the suspicion of flattery. Speaking of which, Hanju hadn't paid attention to this disciple for a long time. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said again, "Next, let's talk about the primordial 10 sages. This legend can't convince the chaos. We need to choose 10 geniuses who can represent the Heavenly Tao to make a name for themselves. They can't be sages." Primordial 10 sages? Hanju deduced silently and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du really knew how to play. Perhaps it was ridiculous in the great Tao sage's eyes, but that was not necessarily the case to all living beings. More people would believe it. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was very capable in terms of management. The reincarnation space he had made previously was still developing. It was enough to show his methods. Hearing this, the sages praised him. Hanju was not arrogant. He felt that this was boring and wanted to not get involved, but he didn't show it. Hanju didn't participate in the topic after that. After the primordial 10 sages matter was settled, Pan Xin said, "Life hurt me, when will the Heavenly Tao destroy life?" His tone was indignant. The other sages were silent. Life was not something the Heavenly Tao could resist. Who knew how many great Tao sages were hidden in it? Hanju asked, "How did life provoke you?" Pan Xin gritted his teeth and said, "They have their eyes on the chaotic heavenly road. In addition, I suspect that one of my supreme treasures has been stolen by them." He really couldn't find a reason. Speaking of which, life had only wandered the chaotic heavenly road to gather information. He had turned the heaven-opening axe into dust event because he had been taught a lesson. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate asked curiously, "What supreme treasure is it? The heaven-opening axe or the chaotic green lotus?" The other sage's expressions turned strange. Pan-Xian's supreme treasure had been stolen. For some reason, Pan-Xian felt inexplicably uneasy being stared at by them, as if he had fallen into a tiger's den. He gritted his teeth and said, "In any case, a treasure has been stolen." Hanju narrowed his eyes and deduced. However, Pan-Xian had a huge amount of heavenly Tao Providence on him. He couldn't deduce it. The current Pan-Xian was already enslaved. No matter what, he was still Hanju's subordinate. He had to stand up for him. Hanju said, "I'll consider this matter, but life's power is unfathomable. Don't act rashly. Perhaps life won't last long even without the heavenly Tao taking action." Pan-Xian could only give up. The other sages also relaxed. To sages, hundreds of thousands of years was really fast. They were usually busy cultivating. Like Hanju, everything changed when they opened their eyes. 2 hours later, the sages left. After Hanju returned to the Taoist temple, he first teleported to the second Tao field and released the long-born extreme darkness fiend Celestial. As usual, Moronchi came to receive him. After that, he returned to the main Tao field to cultivate. The Life faction was restless and would find trouble with the heavenly Tao sooner or later. Hanju wasn't the first Life Black Sovereign's match for the time being, so he felt the pressure. He had to hurry up and cultivate. The earlier he achieved the Great Tao, the better. In the dark space, there was a dense fog. In a pool sat 3 figures. Other than Li Daokong and Shi Dudao, another person could be seen. It was Ancestor Shitian. He was more like a mental demon. At this moment, a loud voice sounded. Hearing this, Ancestor Shitian, Li Daokong, and Shi Dudao opened their eyes. The loud voice continued, "Ancestor Shitian, as the leader of 3 lives, go capture the Heavenly Sect Master and the Devil Ancestor Luo Ho." Ancestor Shitian frowned. "The Heavenly Sect Master is too powerful. We're probably not his match. The Devil Ancestor Luo Ho is the Tao Ancestor's Dharma idol clone. After provoking the Great Tao Divine Spirit, you want to provoke the Tao Ancestor again?" Li Daokong and Shi Dudao frowned. They had also heard of these 2 names. They were mighty figures in the ancient legends of the Heavenly Tao. "The Heavenly Sect Master has already been severely injured by me. His strength is less than 10%. You can also convince him. As for Luo Ho, the Tao Ancestor's providence has spread throughout the chaos. He is not the only Dharma idol. He will not appear for Luo Ho." Ancestor Shitian was silent. A door of light appeared beside the pool. Li Daokong frowned and Shi Dudao raised his eyebrows. They all had their own motives and wanted to hide in the Life faction. They didn't expect to have to carry out a mission so quickly. One wanted to eliminate life, while the other wanted to understand life and find a chance to fuse into it. Ancestor Shitian stood up first and walked towards the door of light. "Let's go! Perhaps this is our fate." Shi Dudao followed closely behind. Li Daokong hesitated for a moment and then chose to follow. They had cultivated here for hundreds of thousands of years and their strength had long been overwhelming. They could use this battle to verify their cultivation results. In an empty and sinister hall, the divine-robed Taoist sat in a red pillar of light. His robes fluttered slightly. A figure arrived in the hall. It was the Cursed Fiend Celestial. The Cursed Fiend Celestial bowed and said, "Exalted God, I need your help." The divine-robed Taoist opened his eyes and stared at the Cursed Fiend Celestial. He had never thought much of the Cursed Fiend Celestial before. When he became Hanju's slave, he didn't think of it either. so he didn't mention it to him. Now that the cursed fiend Celestial had appeared, he was considering if he should kill this fellow and ask Hanju for credit. What is it? The divine-robed Taoist asked coldly. The cursed fiend Celestial's heart tightened. The divine-robed Taoist had changed. Could it be because of the battle with Hanju that his Tao heart had suffered a setback? As the cursed fiend Celestial thought, he said, Divine Lord Peacock has been pestering me. If this continues, I'm afraid I'll die in his hands. At the mention of this, the cursed fiend Celestial gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with anger. His hatred for Divine Lord Peacock had already surpassed his hatred for Hanju. He was also surprised. It had been hundreds of thousands of years. What kind of blood feud was this? The cursed fiend Celestial said gloomily, I'm not sure, either. It should be related to Hanju. Divine Lord Peacock has been chasing after me ever since he left the Heavenly Tao. We didn't know each other at all before this. The divine-robed Taoist's eyes flickered. You mean that Divine Lord Peacock is under Hanju's instructions? The cursed fiend Celestial nodded and gritted his teeth. There's a high chance that Hanju seems to be proficient in subduing people. I've asked around. The Heavenly Tao's Qiushilai and Heavenly Venerate Wufa were once enemies with Hanju. Now, they are Hanju's strongest supporters. It's the same for the Calamity Race's Heavenly Calamity Emperor. It's strange that Divine Lord Peacock can escape unscathed from the Heavenly Tao. There's only one possibility, and that is that he has submitted to Hanju. That's right. That must be it. With the divine-robed Taoist's reminder, the cursed fiend Celestial connected to other information and quickly figured it out. Hatred appeared on his face. Damn Hanju, he stole my great Tao and kept chasing after me. Although he hated Hanju, he had never targeted him. Why did Hanju keep chasing after him? This was too much. No! He was bullying the great Tao too much. The cursed fiend Celestial looked up at the divine-robed Taoist and said, Exalted God, I'm not asking you to kill Hanju. Kill Divine Lord Peacock first. However, the divine-robed Taoist did not answer him. Instead, he stared at him. The atmosphere became strange. The cursed fiend Celestial seemed to have thought of something. The poisonous worm on his face stopped and his body trembled slightly. He said, Forget it since you're troubled. I won't disturb your cultivation. He turned around and wanted to leave. Just as he moved, a powerful force suddenly froze him. He couldn't move. Don't leave since you're already here. The divine-robed Taoist's voice entered the cursed fiend Celestial's ears. The cursed fiend Celestial's eyes widened in despair. I see. No wonder the divine-robed Taoist could return alive. This move. The cursed fiend Celestial suddenly felt fear towards Hanju. Hanju was not as cautious as he looked. He wasn't only guarding an area. Now, it seemed that Hanju had been plotting ahead. Protecting the Heavenly Tao was only the surface, making people think that he was just afraid of being disturbed. Oh no! He was screwed. Buzhou Divine Mountain. Hanyu sat under the old tree. A cool breeze blew past and fused with the world, turning into a beautiful painting. At this moment, Hanyu suddenly opened his eyes. He raised his eyebrows and muttered, What is this feeling? He stood up and walked down the mountain. At the foot of the mountain, a woman in green lay on the ground. Her abdomen was stained red with blood and her face was pale. She was on the verge of death. Hanyu appeared in front of her with a frown. The source of this content, NOVL, by, and fighting was forbidden on Buzhou Divine Mountain. In other words, this woman had fled here with injuries. Hanyu hesitated for a moment before healing her injuries. With his cultivation level, treating an immortal realm cultivator was as easy as flipping his palm. Soon, the woman in green woke up. Hanyu had already disappeared. The woman in green was pleasantly surprised to find that her injuries had healed. She touched her abdomen and muttered, "So there really is a human ancestor in seclusion here." She stood up and turned to look at the peak that she could not see. Her eyes became firm as she resolutely went up the mountain. Several months later, the woman in green stopped halfway up the mountain. Looking up, rolling thunder clouds surrounded the mountain, forming an insurmountable cloud wall. Her voice was very pleasant, but Hanyu was unmoved. The woman in green shouted for several days but did not receive a reply. She found a place to meditate and cultivate, waiting for the senior to answer. She waited for 3,000 years. Under the old tree, Hanyu opened his eyes with interest. He asked, 3,000 years have passed, do you still want revenge? The woman in green in meditation suddenly opened her eyes in surprise. She hurriedly stood up and knelt down. She cupped her fists and said, "Yes, senior." "What hatred is it? It's been 3,000 years and you still can't let it go?" The woman in green was only at the immortal realm. 3,000 years wasn't a short period of time for her. Hearing this, the woman in green replied, "The hatred of killing my master. My master adopted me and raised me like his own daughter. I won't be able to live in peace if I don't avenge him." Hanyu pinched his fingers to deduce and his expression turned strange. Not hearing anything, the woman in green hurriedly said, "Senior, are you still there? I don't need you to help me take revenge. You can just teach me a mystical power. I will serve you forever after I take revenge." Hanyu said faintly, "Your master is an immortal emperor, so your enemy is an immortal emperor. Do you know what an immortal emperor means?" The woman in green was silent for a while before gritting her teeth. "I know it's difficult, but I have to do it." "Then, do you know who's behind that immortal emperor?" "I don't know." The green-robed woman's face was pale. Although she didn't know who the enemy's backing was, she knew that in the immortal world, all cultivators had their own relationships. The higher their cultivation level, the greater their background. Hanyu said casually, "That's a deity realm cultivator." The woman in green trembled and lowered her head. Deity realm. The woman in green did not dare to imagine. She had only heard of existences above the immortal emperor realm, but she had never seen them. She had once witnessed an immortal emperor attack. It could be said to be able to pluck the stars and move the moon. It was overwhelming and peerlessly powerful. Even an immortal emperor was like this, let alone a deity realm cultivator. "Do you know who's behind that deity realm cultivator?" The woman lowered her head even more. Hanyu continued, "When will revenge end? There's always someone stronger. Hatred is endless. Why go that far?" The woman in green gritted her teeth and said, "I'm not willing to give up. I want revenge even if I have to die for it." Hanyu stopped talking. The woman in green continued kneeling. She knelt for 500 years. As she knelt, she absorbed qi and cultivated. She was still recalling the senior's words. Should she take revenge? On this day, Hanyu's voice floated down again, "Have you thought it through?" The woman in green was stunned for a moment before she subconsciously said, "I want revenge." Her expression became firm when she said the last word. With that said, the rolling thunder clouds above her suddenly dispersed. Strands of sunlight scattered down and shone on the woman in green, making her feel as if a lifetime had passed. She looked up and saw a figure standing at the edge of the cliff, looking down at her. She was stunned as her gaze focused on him. She thought that this senior had white hair, but she didn't expect him to be such a handsome man. Never having seen such a handsome man before, she was momentarily stunned. Hanyu smiled and said, "Come on up. Since you insist, I'll teach you a mystical power. However, I won't take you in as my disciple. It's just to add a hint of interest to the boring years.